Every- Hi, everybody. My name is Eddie Stevens. I am a Delta Sig. I was initiated into the University of Miami chapter and a long time ago, 1991. And I am an attorney and I have a little presentation. And what I'm going to talk about today is something that's not specifically business related, but it's knowledge I learned at a very critical time in my life that kind of changed everything for me in a really positive way. And it took one person one day to explain this to me. And it literally led me to lead a very successful life. So if you give me an hour, I'm going to share the story with you. I'm going to also share some things that have happened to me personally, because it's all kind of part of that story. So I am an attorney. I am a trial litigator. I am an equity partner in this firm called Damon. That means I'm an owner, and I am 49 years old. Like I said, I was initiated into DSP in 1991. And if it was not for Delta Sigma Pi, I surely would not be as successful as I am today. I would not have the income I have. Not that the accumulation of wealth is my major goal, but it's nice to live a comfortable life. These are also two other organizations I'm involved in. In my spare time, I serve on the board of directors for the Center for Child Counseling. And that's an organization that helps kids in trauma, like kids going into foster care, kids who lose parents, and we provide them counseling. I'm also the immediate past chair of Leadership Grow, which is a program for the 50 best 11th graders in Palm Beach County, where we put them through an 8-month leadership program. So I work pretty hard, and I like to kind of contribute to the community. Now, before we get into the topic, I'm going to give you a little math and a little science lesson, just as a primer. When you learn geometry, you probably learned Euclidean geometry. It's this guy in the picture, and it's very two-dimensional, and it's based on theorems and hypotheses, and it's universally accepted as basically the form of geometry out there. What they don't teach you in school is something that's a little bit more profound, and it's referred to as sacred geometry. And this is just an example of some of the imagery that is important in sacred geometry. And this is a different mathematician. This is Fibonacci. He's an Italian dude. And about 500 years ago, he came up with a really simple mathematical formula. And it created this thing called the golden spiral. Here's the mathematical formula: a plus b over a equals to the 1/618. I'll break that down and show you what that means. Basically, Fibonacci created a sequence, right? Here's the sequence. And it's basically created by taking one, adding it to itself, and you get a sum, 2. You take the quotient and the sum, 1 plus 2, here you get 3. You take 2 plus 3, you get 5. You take 3 plus 5, you get 8, so on and so forth. Now, simple, really easy, basic, fundamental mathematical formula. If you chart it out, though, it's a spiral. And what do I mean by that? If it's literally a spiral, the numbers in the sequence make up a graphical spiral. And if you pull this out to, you keep going, it continues to form a spiral. So that's like a basic building block of what we're going to talk about, is this spiral. It's important because it's a building block of like the universe. You find it in nature. That's nautilus shell. You find it in weather patterns, in space. Literally, this pattern, everywhere you look, if you look, human anatomy, modern art, graphic design. So you can see this sequence, whether it's intentional or not, is found everywhere. Very important to graphic designers. Being a graphic designer, I would be really surprised if you don't know about this. Also, it's kind of weird if you look at how a tree grows, the branches break off in the Fibonacci sequence. And I know a bunch of you are going to be looking at trees later on, but it's true. How is this? Like, is this some kind of a message? I don't know. If you break down your actual anatomical pieces, you can see they go by the sequence. So is this some kind of a special design? And I'm not preaching any kind of religion because I don't know what to believe in. I'm just observing patterns, right? So that's the math part. Now let's talk about the science part, and the two will come together and you'll see how. About 20 years ago, they discovered that stress trauma on kids had a lifelong impact. And they coined the term adverse childhood experiences. And that's ACEs, right? And they created a basic test of 10. And if you have a score of 4 or more, they say that that could impact your life much more. And these things on a chart are like if you've ever been physically abused, if you've ever had a parent abuse another parent in front of you, if you've ever had an incarcerated parent, if you've ever been sexually abused. So there's a scale of 10. And when I took this test, I scored amazingly high because I had a very traumatic childhood. And I didn't understand the impact of that trauma as a kid on me, that it would have on me for the rest of my life. But it actually has a neurological impact, because when you're under stress, there's a fight or flight response. Like if you see a bear, you know, you're motivated to run the heck out of there. If a mother sees their child trapped by a car, they, you know, it's possible they can lift the car up because they have a rush of these chemicals. And that's a very healthy, that's why you have those type of hormones. But if that bear is around you all the time and those hormones are constantly being released, that creates something that they call toxic stress, which is very unhealthy. And it actually has an impact on your brain. You can see it here in the chart, a healthy brain on the left compared to a child who has been through a lot of trauma. Here's another scan to kind of demonstrate the neurological impact. So just by having this flight or fight response constantly being triggered as a young child, it impacts you and it impacts the development of your brain. So they created like an ACE pyramid where that leads. You have the experiences as a child. It leads to that disrupted neurodevelopment that we just talked about. That affects the frontal lobe of your brain, which is like in charge of how you deal with relations with other people. So if that's not developed, that's going to lead to all kinds of problems. And it's also going to lead to the adoption of high-risk behaviors that leads to disease, disability, other social problems, and unfortunately, early death. So if you can take this test, like on our website, the Center for Child Counseling, just Google that, and you can take the test yourself. And it's kind of important to know and have that self-knowledge of how these experiences may impact you in the future. Both of my parents abused substances. And until I was 15, I had a very chaotic life. I was a CDF student. They sent me to a psychologist because they didn't understand why I was doing so poorly in school. And I tested very well in the IQ test. I just didn't engage in school, and it was basically because I was living through a very chaotic, traumatic time. This is my mom. So I saw my mom take her own life when I was 15. months, 10th grade for me. That was very sad. And it's horrible to lose a parent, but at the same time, all of that chaos kind of came to a stop for me. And for the first time, I could see things, without that chaos. My dad was still alive, but he wasn't the one responsible for taking care of me because he had other issues. The same year my mom died in 1987. I know none of you were born then. I was born in 1971. Again, I'm 49. The same year my mom died in 1987, I learned about this guy named Joseph Campbell. And his teachings changed my life. And I'm going to share with you what they shared with me that changed everything for me. And I went from a DCF student to receiving straight A's through high school, through college, and even through law school, which is, it is what it is, but it was a great change from what it was before. Joseph Campbell died the same year my mom died, and I happened to learn about him in a humanities class that I was taking in school. So it's very interesting, all of these different synchronicities and this information being kind of delivered to me at a moment where it was really important to me because at the time I could have gone in very many directions, and I could have very easily been a bad outcome on society. So who is Joseph Campbell, and how did this dude, this nerdy looking dude, change my life? And did I mention he's a comparative mythologist? Have you even ever heard the term comparative mythologist before? Well, I hadn't until I learned about Campbell, but it means exactly what it sounds like. He compares mythologies. And he went back, and by the way, this is his secret. And you'll understand this by a little more when this talk is over. Follow your bliss and the universe will open doors where before there were only walls. So I'll show you what that means. But Campbell studied the Egyptians. He studied, this is Oedipus, delivering fire to man. This is the Hindus. Moses delivering the commandments. Ganesha, an Indian god. And he found a common thread in all of the hero stories. He called it a monomyth. And he wrote this monomyth, this pattern down in a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This book came out in like 1950 something, even 20 years before I was born. And it basically lays down the pattern of the hero. Now, we're going to figure out why that's important, but let's look at it. This is one rendering of his template. And basically the hero goes on a couple of different, there's a separation, an initiation, and a return. And in essence, this pattern is found in every hero story from the beginning of time till today. And it's really interesting in the beginning of time because there was no mass communication. So you had these peoples telling the same story that they didn't get it from anybody else. So there's something really deep to this. So this is George Lucas. And next to George Lucas, looking up so proudly like a father, is Joseph Campbell. Because George Lucas wrote Star Wars, which came out in 1977, based totally on Joseph Campbell's template, to the letter. And this is, that's in the middle there, that's Carrie Fisher, who is Princess Leia. And this is a dinner where basically George Lucas was thanking Joseph Campbell for his contributions and giving him credit for the inspiration of Star Wars. But it's not just Star Wars. It's every hero movie, going from The Wizard of Oz I just saw the new Mulan, which is excellent, by the way. I could talk about this for about 30 minutes, but I found an 4-minute internet video on the web that explains it in a way better than I can, and this lets me take a little break. So here is a 4-minute video on this.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth, or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo, that's where we start. 1 o'clock, call to adventure. The hero receives a mysterious message, an invitation, a challenge. 2 o'clock, assistance. The hero needs some help, probably from someone older, wiser. 3 o'clock, departure. The hero crosses the threshold from his normal, safe home and enters the special world and adventure. We're not in Kansas anymore. 4 o'clock, trials. Being a hero is hard work. Our hero solves a riddle, slays a monster, escapes from a trap. 5 o'clock, approach. It's time to face the biggest ordeal, the hero's worst fear. 6 o'clock, crisis. This is the hero's darkest hour. He faces death and possibly even dies, only to be reborn. 7 o'clock, treasure. As a result, the hero claims some treasure, special recognition, or power. 8 o'clock, result. This can vary between stories. Do the monsters bow down before the hero, or do they chase him as he flees from the special world? 9 o'clock, return. After all that adventure, the hero returns to his ordinary world. 10 o'clock, new life. This quest has changed the hero. He has outgrown his old life. 11 o'clock, resolution. All the tangled plot lines get straightened out. 12 o'clock, status quo, but upgraded to a new level. Nothing is quite the same once you're a hero. Many popular books and movies follow this ancient formula pretty closely, but let's see how well The Hunger Games fits the hero's journey template. When does Katniss Everdeen hear a call to adventure that gets the story moving? When her sister's name is called from the lottery. How about assistance? Is anyone going to help her on her adventure? Hey, Mitch. What about departure? Does she leave her ordinary world? She gets on a train to the capital. Okay, so you get the idea. What do you have in common with Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo? Well, you're human, just like them. The hero's journey myth exists in all human cultures and keeps getting updated because we humans reflect on our world through symbolic stories of our own lives. You leave your comfort zone, have an experience that transforms you, and then you recover and do it again. You don't literally slay dragons or fight Voldemort, but you face problems just as scary. Joseph Campbell said, "In the cave you fear to enter lies the treasure you seek." What is the symbolic cave you fear to enter? Auditions for the school play? Baseball tryouts? Love? Watch for this formula in books, movies, and TV shows you come across. You will certainly see it again, but also be sensitive to it in your own life. Listen for your call to adventure. Accept the challenge. Conquer your fear and claim the treasure you seek. And then do it all over again.
So that is the pattern. We're going to skip over these individual steps to save some time. But everybody has a call, and if you're not paying attention, it will eventually slap you in the face. These stories are not just stories. This mythology really is a representation of what's in us and what we can become. And it teaches us, really what's possible. And if you make a commitment to expand your comfort zone, and it's scary, and it has all these elements where you may even, face your darkest, deepest issue. But in doing that, you come back with a metaphorical prize and you're transmutated into something different. And then you do it again and again and again. And that's that spiral, which is that, element of life that we were talking about. So technically speaking, the comfort zone is your mental conditioning that causes you to create and operate within mental boundaries. In Star Wars, Luke Skywalker in the original 1977 movie didn't want to leave the farm. He had family obligations. He had all of these things tying him, all these reasons to say no to Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan unplugged the message and heard Princess Leia said with that famous line, "Help me, Obi-Wan," and off they went on their adventure. But that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens when you leave your comfort zone, and that's where you really become a more confident, evolved human being. So I like this graphic a lot because the new experience doesn't just, twist you a little bit. Every new experience that you do, and the more challenging they are, broadens your comfort zone. So the more times you put yourself through these experiences, the broader your comfort zone is. And even if the new experience is a failure, it has value because it teaches you a lesson if you're paying attention. And it also continues to broaden your abilities. And if you follow this pattern, and I've been doing this since I learned this when I was 15, and it has led me to live an unbelievably happy, incredible life. Even though I had these experiences as a kid, I've raised two pretty functional human beings. They're both in college at UCF, and they haven't gotten in trouble yet. And their ACE score would be dramatically different than mine. This was a quote that you saw in that little video. But if you saw Star Wars, Luke Skywalker literally walks into a cave, and the thing that he fears himself, Darth Vader, I don't want to do a spoiler, but it's really himself, deep stuff. And your path is not a path that someone laid out for you. A lot of us have family expectations. You're going to become a physician. You're going to become a lawyer. You're going to do, what the family expects of you. Well, that's probably not what life has in store for you. And your first job is usually not your last job. Who knows at that young age, really until you experience and go on these adventures, what your true calling is. So I love storytelling, and I'm a litigator, I'm a lawyer. This is King Arthur's court, and he was famous for having the round table because everybody was their equal. And there's a great mythology tale about the Holy Grail, where King Arthur charged his knights with a mission to go find the Holy Grail. And we don't even know what the Holy Grail was. We don't know if it was a chalice, like in the Indiana Jones movies. They never tell us what the Holy Grail is. It might be just finding that spiritual essence inside you and overcoming your greatest fear. That might be the Holy Grail. Well, King Arthur told his knights, I want you to each enter the forest where it's most darkest for you. Enter in the toughest spot, and that's where you'll know you're going in the right place. Each knight entered the forest in a different place because they all had different fears and they all were subjective, and everybody has a different path. That's why you're never going to be able to mimic someone to success. You're never going to be told what's the right thing to do with your life. What is the vocation? This is something that, if you really want to do a job that you love, you're going to eventually find out what really makes you tick. Albert Einstein, great quote: if you've never made a mistake, you've never tried anything new. There's that great Michael Jordan quote about how many times he missed the basket before winning a ring. This is me and my mom. I was a really awkward kid. If I didn't mention that, I had all kinds of behavioral problems. So my mom tried her best to put me into acting. So this is me trying to expand my comfort zone. And it was expanded much greater when I got into Delta Sigma Pi and was able to have some fun leadership roles. So this is the Golden Buddha, and this is a real thing that exists. Right now, it's in Thailand, and you can go visit it. And about 10 years ago, they kept it secret, and you couldn't visit it, but now it's a big tourist attraction. This is really an amazing thing because in the 1950s, it was rediscovered. And what I mean by that, it was originally created centuries ago by Buddhist monks, and they heard that Burmese warriors were coming in to invade, so they covered this golden Buddha with mud. And when they were done with it, it looked like a stone statue. So who would be interested in a stone statue, when there's literally tons of gold there? The problem was that the Burmese wiped out the village, and the institutional knowledge that this was a golden Buddha was lost. So for centuries, all of this gold sat underneath rock. And in 1950, they were building, you could look this up, this is a true story, they were building a road, and they had to move this stone statue. So they did the mathematics, and they created a levee pulley system. And stone weighs much differently than gold. Gold is very, very heavy. And when they tried to move the stone statue, the mechanism buckled, and the statue fell a little bit, and they broke off, and they realized what a treasure they had. So they took off all the stone, and this is not a small statue. It's about 6 feet tall, and it's pure gold. Now, the metaphor in that is profound. They say, specifically Joseph Campbell says, when you go through life, people put clay on you, just like they did that golden Buddha, when they tell you what to, the safe path. Don't become an artist, become a this. Don't follow your dreams. Don't become an astronaut. That's not realistic. And by doing that, they're putting their clay on you, and that weighs you down. And it can weigh you down to the point where you're not independent. And life throws curveballs at you. And they say that the biggest ones are losing a job, losing a loved one, like to death, or getting divorced. And those are probably the three biggest stressors. And just like this golden Buddha was under a lot of stress, those are moments where maybe, you can crack some of that stone that was put on you, because underneath, we're all truly brilliant golden beings. And once we shake off all that stone, we can really shine. So after that's me with a little bit of hair. I had a little tuft of hair. But I got involved in Delta Sigma Pi, and that was really good for me because, like I said, I was socially awkward, and I wanted to do the right thing. I just needed a path. And Delta Sigma Pi was really kind of instrumental in giving me these adventures to go on, these opportunities, like becoming president, becoming vice president of Pledge Education. I went on to serve as a national leader. I became a regional vice president. I became a trustee. I became the board chair and president of the Leadership Foundation during our 100th anniversary. That was really cool. We raised enough money to rebuild central office, and if you ever go there, you'll see my brick somewhere in the yard. So all these adventures and all these opportunities have made me such a better person and such a better professional. Like, if I did not have all of these speaking opportunities in Delta Sigma Pi, I would not be considered an expert in my field. And if you Google me, I am, let me jump over all this Delta Sig stuff. This is fun stuff. If you Google me, I'm a pretty successful attorney. I don't want to brag. This is all my writings that I did, and this is published in the Delta Sig magazine. And now, like, I have my own book published. And if I didn't publish myself initially through Delta Sigma Pi, if I didn't speak hundreds of times at Delta Sigma Pi events, if I didn't keep expanding my circle of comfort, I don't think I would be doing amazing things right now. And I'm still a shy introvert, but, you know, I'm also doing some superstar things in the world, and just because I'm kind of comfortable doing it. Two roads diverged by wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. That's Robert Frost. So basically, decisions in life that you make, I have had the benefit of all of these opportunities being presented to me. I'd like to think I exploited them, and I use that as a good word. Like, I made the most of the opportunities, and I also really followed on a trail of doing something that I loved. And by following that trail, I created relationships and friendships with people that I never, ever imagined. Like, look at your chapter and look at how diverse your chapter is. And, you know, look around, and had it not be for Delta Sigma Pi, would you ever be friends with these people? And, you know, if you go to these national or even provincial events, you do that spiral, and, you know, you increase your comfort zone, and you meet new people, new allies, and eventually you're going to meet like-minded people. People who think a whole lot more than you, just because you're exposed to a whole lot of different people. And that's where magic happens. You know, I know what I'm capable of, but when I collaborate with something and our individual sums create something that's much more greater than, you know, if it was alone, that's really fun and magical. And I have taken this belief system into my work, where, you know, everything I do, I kind of do it as if it's important. And people around me respond to that. And it has caused me to be a great business leader. Not only do I litigate cases, but, you know, I am in charge of a law firm, and we have 70 employees. These are all skills that Delta Sigma Pi were totally instrumental, and it's really true what they say. It's kind of what you make of it. It could just be a line on your resume, or you can kind of delve into life and do different things, and, you know, even if it's a failure, you know, something good will come out of that. Knowledge, a relationship. There's just so many opportunities out there. So that's the basic secret, you know, live outside your comfort zone, push yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable positions, because that's the quickest way that you're going to grow. And it really, for me, from where I came from, it worked wonders on me. I may be preaching to the choir, because Delta Sigma Pi's are typically the type A folk out there, and they're already hyper accomplished. So you're already amongst good people. And I congratulate you all for joining Delta Sigma Pi. Obviously, I think very highly of it. And now for speaking for 40 minutes, I'll like kind of open it up. And if you guys have any questions about me, I'm sharing like personal stuff with you. That's fair game, or about law or Delta Sig, or, you know, I have some very interesting perspectives. I was also president of my chapter when we were suspended for hazing. There's a whole story behind that. So whatever you guys want. If you guys have any questions, thank you for paying such close attention. And I hope at least one of you got something out of that, because when it was told to me, like I said, it was life altering. Noah.
I just wanted to ask, when did you first decide you wanted to become a lawyer?
I tried not to become a lawyer. That's like the thing my family wanted me to do. And I actually started off school as a motion picture major. And this is before, you know, this is back when we actually sliced film, way back when. You might not even know what that means. But I wanted to be an artist type. So I had an experience in film school where someone sabotaged something we were doing. And then I realized this is a really backstabbing community, so I decided to become a lawyer. I don't know if that was the right choice, but here I am. So I wanted to be an artist. In a way, I went in a direction, but I also went in a crazy direction that not most people enjoy. I do high conflict family law, and I actually love helping people. And most people who practice what I do not enjoy their lives and their jobs. And we have a 40% alcoholism rate in my profession, and I'm sitting totally sober right now in front of you. So some people can not handle what they do. And frankly, I believe my unique upbringing and surviving trauma has given me special skills where I can absorb pain where maybe other people can't. And I am more empathetic just because I know what these people are going through, because while I haven't gone through what they're going through, I've gone through some really bad stuff that, you know, it's not even fun to talk about. Oh, Brownwell? Did I get that right? Brownwell?
Yeah. What was the hardest part of law school?
I found law school easy, dealing with the personalities of people who turned it into a competition. You know, was kind of nightmarish, but that introduces you into becoming a lawyer, because it's, you know, if you become a lawyer, you're going to spend the day dealing with difficult people. So I've always found once I started looking at books, I found out I was actually pretty smart, and taking tests after, you know, my mom died was never a problem for me. I passed the bar on the first time. I was the youngest attorney in Florida to become board certified, which is kind of a special designation. I was 32, and it was like unheard of at the time. So I just test very well. I'm very fortunate like that.
I don't actually know how to raise my hand in this thing. I guess I could do like that, but
Just did it. Tyler.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like a little thing.
Well, there is a little thing, a reaction thing that you can do, like a little thumbs up or something. But your hand's fine. I don't know. We're doing this on the fly, buddy.
There you go. I figured it out.
What's up?
So my question is kind of similar to Noah's question, but I'm gonna expand a little bit. So when you finally like figured out that you want to be like a lawyer and stuff, what was the first thing that you learned like that kind of didn't work out, like like that didn't first thing that didn't work out, and what did you learn from it? There we go.
So it's a really good question. Well, going into the experience, I already knew life wasn't fair. But seeing the judicial system and seeing judges making decisions and those judges not really caring about the decisions and the impact that had on not just the litigants, but the families and so many people. So, if you're ever being sued, in whatever capacity, and there's a way to get out of it, being sued is not a good thing. Going through a divorce is a horrible, traumatic thing. And the best thing you can do is choose your battles wisely. And sometimes the best decision is not to battle at all if you can avoid it. Because I have seen so many lives and so many children destroyed just by the process.
Thank you.
How about an uplifting question? Spencer?
Yes, I don't know how uplifting it's going to be, but maybe it'll
Uh-oh.
shift it in a positive way. We've actually had someone speak before about this topic, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, just because being a lawyer, I would assume, is kind of a stressful occupation. And you mentioned that you have 2 children in college right now, but what is your opinion on work-life balance, and what advice would you give to especially the juniors and seniors tonight that are going to be graduating the next year or so and just transitioning into the workforce for the first time?
Well, I think you really need to. I take conscious steps to take care of myself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. I could not help people if I was depleted. So I know I'm not going to bill as many hours as an attorney should bill, because I don't care about that. But if you do 50 hours a week, technically that's 2,000 hours. I bill somewhere around 1,500 hours a year, so I take 500 additional hours off, not using my brain. But what I do is very toxic, and I involve myself in these other projects that let me go on these great adventures. And whether this adventure is like doing an athletic kickball tournament, or something more important like curating an experience for a bunch of 11th graders that are going to learn about government that day, and have the prosecutor debate the public defender and create that experience. I hope I answered your question. Sydney, how you doing?
Okay, so I do have a positive question. So what are some notable fun experiences that you had with your chapter when you were a collegiate? I'm sure getting suspended for hazing wasn't necessarily fun, but I'm sure you guys were
We deserved
active.
We deserved it. But the fact that I remained involved in the fraternity and became a national officer is the real interesting lesson. Because we did haze. Our chapter had years of, we could never fix it, we tried. And if you have a history with the central office and, they catch you even a little bit, they come down very hard on you. So it was tough. I had a lot of anger at the time because I thought we were trying to fix things and we still got in trouble. But at the same time, overcoming that obstacle in life, and I remember them telling me the only way we could keep our charter was if I come to a provincial event and meet the grand president and the provincial vice president. And that was a fun meeting in a room with the 3 of us, where they were rightfully expressing themselves. And I was a rebellious little kid, still am a little bit. And I still, even after that experience, saw all the good that Delta Sigma Pi offered, and made the decision to keep the chapter alive and a lot of brothers left because just they didn't believe things could be changed, and now the chapter's doing really well. But it is like 28 years later. So all chapters have clefts and valleys, and they just, I got rid of a chapter recently for hazing, so unfortunately it still exists, but hopefully you realize that it's just not, we don't live in a world that will tolerate it. So, eventually it will lead to your chapter not being around if it's a practice that you guys engage in. It's just a reality of things. But it was a great lesson to overcome. Life is full. The more things that you can overcome, the greater your threshold for amazing things are. So thank you, Sydney. Anybody else? Noah, you got another one?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to word this one. What was one of the main reasons why you chose to join Delta Sigma Pi?
Because I went to a really good party. That's basically it. And I got lucky that it was an organization that would seriously change my life by giving me these opportunities. Because I served president multiple terms, DPPE multiple terms, and I went on the national officer track. And everything that I learned, like I was a shy kid, and I could not speak in front of people, when I was young. Now I can get in front of you all and tell you some of my, life's most deepest secrets. And I'm okay with that, just because of the experiences I put myself through. But I was a shy, awkward kid. Dealing with those things, I've learned to make them all work in my benefit. And whatever issue I've had in my life, instead of using it as something crippling or as an excuse, I use it to help people. So it's all in your attitude and application. So you could either take a bad experience and be bitter and pick at that wound forever, or you could let it scar nicely and evolve from it and maybe even help someone else. And I know I've helped a lot more than just one person in my occupation. So very rewarding to be able to significantly make a difference in someone's life. And I do it just because of what I do. It's a kind of a regular occurrence, and I don't know if that's something I need in my life after everything I've been through, but it's really rewarding. Eric?
I have another law school related question.
Go for it.
Is there a benefit to have a law degree if you don't intend on being a lawyer? I guess my question is are there people that go to law school and get the law degree that don't have the intention of becoming practicing attorneys?
Absolutely, because it's considered a PhD. Like if you went to teach in Florida, you would be paid at the highest grade. Yes, lots of employers like to see law school educations for some reason. Personally, if you weren't going to get a ticket, which is the only reason I went to law school, was so I could practice law. I think work is probably more valuable, real experience. But that's just my personal thought on the matter. And many great people disagree with me. Yes, most politicians have law degrees, but there's a reason people don't trust lawyers. All right. Well, guys, I've kept you long enough. I think you get credit for a professional activity. Go Delta Sig. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
All right, I am going to end the meeting, which means you all are going to disappear.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice meeting you all.